Hello there, YouTube. It's Rod here again. We're on to our next project, which, as you can see or can't see, is going to be a 45-gallon drum wood barrel / coal burner, and we're going to throw in some tubes for a heat exchanger, and we're going to use this to heat the greenhouse. And we're going to tip the scale a little bit, we're going to put some wheels under it, and we're going to bring her back into the shop here during the non-heating the greenhouse season, and we'll use her to do supplementary heating in the shop with some excess coal and firewood. So we're going to try and do this project without a trip to town. It's always exciting. It's called make and do with the junk you have laying around. So I scratched up a barrel that I found over on my other property there. Seems to be in pretty decent shape. I don't think there's anything in it. And I've had a series of these cheap ass, what do you call those, temporary storage units that are kind of prone to blowing away no matter what you do to them. You could park a truck on them and I swear the tornado will hit them. So we're going to utilize a bunch of this scrap pipe for our heat exchanger, full well knowing that the thickness of this stuff is nothing short of pathetic. However, for the little bit of use we're going to need out of this thing, I think it'll suit the project just fine. That, and as I mentioned, I don't want a trip to town, therefore that's about my only option. So that's what we're going to use. We're going to scab this thing together, I guess you could say, with a number of these pipes going through the barrel. We're going to have to build a door on the front of this unit that's reasonably airtight, and I would like to have a fan that's thermostatically controlled that feeds the air, feeds the draft to this thing. That way I can maybe get a good 8 hours out of one burn, which will get me through the night with the greenhouse. It's a small greenhouse, it's 8x7, it's another YouTube project. In fact, I'm going to take you out and show it to you, and I can't remember the guy's design off of YouTube, but I like his thinking. It's very simple, it's cheap, and it's our second year with it. It's been really good to us. Fun to build. There it is right over there. You can see she's tough in the winter out there. You'll see a stack coming out of her there. I built a self-feeding coal furnace for it. Windmill is just a giving her today. Actually, the lights in here are powered with the windmill right now. That greenhouse turned out to be a really good project, but I built a self-feeding coal burner resembling the Booker number 2, but burning coal inside a greenhouse, as I'm sure anyone would know, is not something you really want to do if you want your plants to live any amount. So that's our project, and I'm going to maybe pop in here and do the odd little video on the progress of it, and we'll talk to you soon. So I'm working away here. Just managed to get the hole cut in the barrel. I see a lot of guys using jigsaws based on the fact that the barrel may contain flammable residue. This one here had residue in the bottom. I tested it, it wasn't flammable, it was just water or snow or whatever it might have been. So anyway, I decided to, I wanted to keep the piece that I cut out as the door front, not realizing how sturdy this iron actually is on these barrels. I decided to zip cut because I wanted a bit of a gap where the blade removed the metal, so that when I put the door back on, it's an easy fit. And what I've done is I built a frame here in which I've marked before I cut, and that's just going to, I figured the curvature of the lid of the barrel would be the best way to go. Otherwise I'd just have 14 gauge that would be flat, and it may not seat very comfortably against the face of the barrel, being it's not perfectly flat. The reason for this clip here is when I was cutting with the zip cut wheel, I found that it got very hot and it's not very comfortable to do such a thing. Had I expected it to cut like that, I would have just used the plasma cutter. Much cooler cut, and it actually started to warp the barrel, and I don't know if it's going to pop back up or not, but I just wanted to mention, if you do use a zip cut wheel, it may not exactly be as simple as you thought. Don't get me wrong, it did the job. It just, if you have a plasma cutter sitting around, I would suggest going that way, assuming that you have nothing flammable. You wouldn't be using a grinder if you had anything flammable in there anyway. You would be using a jigsaw or an air chisel or something. So I just wanted to point that out here as I work on my barrel stove. All right. Okay, just a quick update here. I just wanted to show everyone how I did this. I've got 5 holes marked here for my heat exchanger tubes, which are definitely the weaker link of this whole project. This is off one of those piece of crap temporary sheds. You can see I had to splice one together just to make it happen here. Definitely a thin wall, and it's covered in epoxy or whatever, that powder coat finish. Not going to be the best of results, but it is small, so in the end, when it does fail, I can just drill out a bigger hole and put in bigger pipe. So anyway, in order to get your pipe straight across there, there's a zillion ways you could do it. What I came up with is a template that I measured in square, and I've made some cheater marks and stuff, and I've transferred all the information from this side of the barrel down to the bottom for the other side to try and keep a square. I just use a level. It's not a piano, so we don't have to be, you know, deathly accurate. And then I just set my template up there, and I score all my holes just with a drill bit to leave myself, and then I finish drilling them. And then now I'm going to try a hole saw. It's kind of an inferior hole saw, and I may end up having to use the plasma cutter. This barrel is proven to be pretty decent material. Must be an older one. But anyway, I just wanted to show you how I did that in case in case anyone ever wanted to know. All right. Just a quick shot here to show you where we're at here. We just put the fire tubes in. We've got the chimney hole roughed in. Got this here cut out. You can kind of see how we're going to adapt to our 6-inch chimney pipe there. We're going to leave that off for now until we get our fire tubes installed. On this end here, you can see we'll probably weld them flush on this end, and on this end we're going to build a manifold to collect it all, and we'll try and keep it as simple as we can, simply because then we could, if we needed to, we could actually insulate the box and it going into the greenhouse. So just wanted to give you a kind of a shot here of where we're at. I also want to show you this here. This here is just a cutout of the barrel, this red piece here, and then I took some 14 gauge and I shaped the barrel with it, and took an old bolt, made a handle out of it. And this here, I thought, instead of making a big elaborate system, this here will just drop down into this hole there, and you just pull your ashes. I'll weld a hook on there for the pail, and that way you can pull your ashes reasonably easy without, you know, unscrewing or unbolting or trying to scoop them out. This way here we could do a quick clean and the life goes on. So it's coming along here. I'll keep you, maybe give you another update here. I'm going to start welding in some fire tubes here and get the chimney on, and we'll start working on that door and some legs here as soon as we can. Alright, good evening to you here. Just wanted to do another progress update on what we got going on here. It's pretty well the end of the day here. I've been at her for 8 hours or so. So you can see we've got our tubes welded in here, our 5 heat exchanger tubes. Got the door built. Here I took all the time to save the piece that I cut out for the door because it had a curve to it, much like the top of the barrel, and by the time I was done welding everything, she flattened right out. So it actually worked out not too bad. I just had to flatten this piece back into this frame I'd built. I had a little struggle with some paint here. I made marks on the paint and couldn't erase the marks, so I tried to grind after, and of course you know how MIG welders like their paint, so I'm not a welder by trade anyway, so we'll just overlook that end of things. I've got some heavy duty hinges there, just a simple latch system here, up and out, and it's wedged here so that when you pull down it actually gets tighter. Just making use of some previous scraps on other jobs. So there's the original part of the barrel that fits into the slot here. Turn the light on here and you can see the heat exchanger. So there's our heat exchanger, just 5 pipes. Keeping in mind this is a really small greenhouse. It's only 8 by 7. It's poly, and it's not going to require massive amounts of heat. So you can see my exit hole out there for my chimney. I was thinking about putting a deflector plate on there, but I'm putting a damper in anyway, so maybe not necessarily needed to do that. There's my ash hole. If you will, I could say that without and actually mean it. My ash hole, and I think that's gonna ease the situation quite a bit. Once I get some legs on here, I'll put a hook on here to hang a galvanized pail from there, just to scrape the ashes into, so you don't have to hold a bucket under there. I've got a 2-inch valve I'm going to put on here. I don't have a blower for this yet, and I don't even know I don't really have a plan for that yet. We'll just do something in 2-inch with a blower. Maybe I can whip something up. Chances are I'm gonna have to get something from town for that. I hate to say it, but you know how that goes. I don't want to rob Pete to feed Paul here, so taking something apart to that works to make something that might not be the best thing. So anyway, we got our heat exchanger coming through there, and it's just going to draw air right from the outside. I could get fancy and run a return to it, but I don't see the need. So here's my chimney adapter. You can see I plasmaed out a perfect oval. Reason being, I actually used that piece of 6-inch stovepipe over there, only to realize after that it wasn't very round. Not a big deal. I can always trim it up, or maybe I can just stuff a pipe in there. Like I say, it's nothing serious. So on the back here I have a collector. It's in 5-inch, and if you look up in there you'll see where the heat exchangers, the tubes come through. I did take the time to weld that up. Not necessarily this box so much as because the barrel's curved, it's a little tricky to get onto. So I did do a lot of filler welding, but on these sides here I didn't even weld this side. I'm gonna have to put some RTV or something in there. It's just too much of a gap to weld, and you can't get in there very good. This side I goose shitted some weld in there. Actually, it didn't turn out too terrible bad. So now on the ass end over here, we're gonna come out with 5-inch, just regular ducting, and I've got this blower fan here I might have mentioned earlier. This blower fan I'll probably put inside the greenhouse just to keep it out of the weather, and it doesn't matter which end of the pipe, if it goes on the inside of the greenhouse or right here. Here it's going to get a little warm, You can see it's gotten warm before. I was using it on some oil furnaces and the flame was a little bit closer than it should have been. So that's what I'm going to use to pull the air through. These aren't real aggressive, so I'm hoping it's enough. It may not be, but we'll worry about that when that time comes. So that leaves us with the legs. We got to get some legs built. We got to get that hitch put on for the pail at the bottom. And what else do we need to do? A little bit of 2-inch plumbing there. And then we got to stoke this sucker and get that paint off her. She probably won't take high heat paint until I get rid of the paint that's under it. So it'll be nice to see it go. It's terribly stinky stuff to work with. I've been grinding all day trying to get my welds to take, but even when you grind, you can't get her all. The other thing too is this this coating that is on these heat exchanger pipes has to go. Another thing I might end up doing, and I can do it after it, no big worry, is put a copper coil tube in there. I have a pre-wound one that I wound for a different project. And I can use it to heat water as well for the pressure washer and whatnot. So we're gonna make the best out of this thing. It's turning out not too bad. Got a lot done, I guess, today. Kind of been pushing hard on it here. So we're gonna call her a day for now, and in the morning we'll get some legs on her, and she'll probably be stoked up by noon. So I'll give you a post on that maybe, and hopefully I haven't left anything out here. So with any luck, oh, and I did make the door removable. There's just bolts, 5/16 bolts sitting in here, and the door will pop off if I find it easier to do maintenance or whatever like that. I didn't want to commit to a door being on there. So and that door may warp. I'm gonna try and keep the bulk of the heat not right against the door anyway. Keep my clean out there accessible, and the grate probably won't start till 10 inches in or so, and then we'll run the grate back. And I'm going to be running coal and wood in here, so the coal is going to burn really hot, and I've got this expanded metal here, which I'll use. It's very light though. It's going to warp really bad. I might have to support it or double it up. Even if I do that, it's probably still going to sag on me. But that's, I mean, it's a wood burner, like who, it doesn't really matter. So anyway, have a good evening, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow. Good morning. We're back here on the greenhouse heater, the heat exchanging wood/coal burner. You can see she's kind of shaping up here. Got some makeshift legs with wheels on her there. Real proud of that. Keeping in mind I can't go to town. I got to use what I have here, so that's probably a good enough use for those wheels. It's not going to get many miles on it, I'm sure. So I think I already covered this this collector in the back here, which has the heat exchanger pipes coming through. I put the fan on here last night. This fan up here I have on here, and I actually got really decent draw. I was quite happy. This fan is nothing to brag about. It's just a duct fan that you put in your house if you have a cooler room or something. But the idea, the concept of that in the house doesn't work real great, simply because you have to take air out of the room to force air into it, and those things aren't a real powerhouse. Anyway, good enough for this project. I've got my chimney and damper on, and I'll suggest to you that when you're welding inside, have your chimney on, and I also threw this fan on there. It's running right now just to suck any fumes out as you're welding. This is what separates the fat guys from the little guys, is trying to weld inside a barrel. So you'll see I got my 2-inch. All I had was a 1.5 inch valve. I thought I had a 2-inch one. So no big deal, just reduced down, and I threw a 90 on it more so not just to keep the weather out, but so there's clearance for the door, so the valve isn't intercepting the path of the door. So I'll turn the light on here. So I've got some grates in here that were out of an old barbecue that the bottom rotted out of. Fridge racks and oven racks. Oven rack may be a little better than a fridge rack, but the heat's probably still going to buckle them. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if these ones here buckled on me as well. What I've done, and this is what I was talking about, fat guys trying to weld in a barrel, is I've just set it on some angle irons front and back to hold each grill kind of where they belong. And I'll just give you a shot up there of what we got going on there, and you can see the chimney in the background there. So here's my ash hole, as I like to call it. And you just pull the grates out, and I'll make a tool that's kind of semicircle that I can just pull the ashes this way, and they'll drop down into, I have a galvanized pail, so even if your ashes were a little on the warm side, you could still drop them into the pail, let them cool in the pail, and then dump them out the next time you come to service up your stove. So that's kind of where we're at now here. We're going to fire this girl up right shortly here, and we're going to smoke down the paint. Hopefully we'll get a nice cooker going. We'll smoke down the paint. Food for thought, I may have to put some supports on these cheese ass legs I built for it. At this point I won't. I don't want to make this thing 500 pounds. I mean, I could also put a handle on it too to transport it. And then another thing you could do if you wanted to get creative is just simply put a cooking surface on here, or a warming surface if you wanted. And one other thing I may do with this project, but it depends on how well it heats the greenhouse and for how long. If I can keep a fire cooking in here for about 8 hours, I'll be happy. But if I can't, what I'm going to do is, I have, like I said, a copper coil heat exchanger, and I can transfer water heat from the fire to the water. So what I'll do is I'll put it in this box here. There'll just be an in and an out line, and what I do is I run it from a barrel. I use just one of those pond pumps, and I put the pond pump inside the barrel, and it pumps the water supply through the heating coil, and it just continuously circulates. And the idea there is you warm up the water in the greenhouse and then use it as a heat sink. And I can actually heat the greenhouse immediately with the warm air, and I can prolong the heat with the warm water. And the water doesn't even really have to be smoking hot. It will shed its heat as the temperature of the greenhouse declines. My thoughts on this are that the greenhouse is easily heated, but it also cools off very rapidly. My thoughts on this is I would have a low fire, quite a low fire, and just a constant breeze coming into the greenhouse. So chances are this little furnace fan I have here is going to be running all the time. I may not even have to put a thermostat on here, simply because of the how quickly the greenhouse will radiate heat. I have no insulation on it. A lot of guys use bubble wrap. I'm not about to do that here, mostly because I can't find any. So I think it just might be a nice glowing fire with just a light breeze. And you know, if the breeze was 40 degrees or something like that, I think it would be more than adequate. It's a small greenhouse, so it's not going to take a hell of a lot to heat. I was using that infrared heater. You can see it right there. It's actually a halogen infrared. It's actually a pretty decent heater, but it does run up the power bill. I have that one and another one. So two 1500 watt heaters running in the greenhouse is not very energy smart if you plan on doing it for a month or two at a time. So that's kind of the reason for this here. So my next video, I'll probably be painting it or cooling it down or lighting it or something like that. So anyway, stay tuned, and we'll hopefully have some more for you here. Thanks.